Something that worked for years in Bee Swarm Simulator just stopped working overnight. And no one is talking about how much this changes progression. Most players think Polar Bear just gives annoying quests. Some that take forever because of mob respawn cooldowns. And when you finish them, you don't even get loot. You just get this fork that gives a tiny energy buff. But in reality, Polar Bear is the best bear in the entire game. Because every quest increases your polar power. And energy is everything in Bee Swarm. When your bees run out of energy, they stop making tokens and go to sleep. That's time you're losing in the field. A player with around 40 polar power gets a 3 times bee energy, but an endgame player with 6,000 polar power gets a 300 times energy multiplier. That means a stubborn bee that normally has 20 energy can go all the way up to over 11,000 energy. That's the difference between bees sleeping constantly, and bees basically never sleeping. So anything that slows down Polar Bear quests, slows down your entire progression. And today's update did exactly that. Onet added 2 new Polar Bear quests that require you to catch falling petals. Petals spawn randomly in fields, and to collect them, you have to be standing exactly under them when they fall. If you're not in the right spot at the right moment, you just miss it. This might not sound like a big deal at first, but Polar Bear quests used to be fully macroable. You could leave your macro running overnight and wake up with more polar power. But macros don't react to randomness. They follow paths and patterns. And petals don't have any patterns, they're completely random. So macros just miss them over and over. And for new players, this is even worse. Because breaking blooms is already hard early game. So trying to do this while macroing becomes almost impossible. But this doesn't only affect Polar Bear. Riley Bee and Bucko Bee were updated the exact same way. They also now require you to catch petals in their quests. Which means this change didn't just slow down polar power. It slowed down Riley and Bucko progression too. And this is where the hidden consequence appears. Because if you want to progress faster in Bee Swarm, you eventually want the Tide Popper or the Dark Scythe. And both of these are locked behind completing 250 Riley or Bucko Bee quests. Quests that now take way longer because of petals. So this update didn't just make quests slower, it made endgame tools slower to obtain. Bee Swarm is a game where offline progression matters. If you look at the player count, there are around 200,000 players online. And you can't even join a public server without seeing people macroing. Probably around 80 to 85% of players rely on macros to even play the game. So adding mechanics that can't be macroed isn't a small change. It affects the majority of the player base. And here's the bigger problem. Natro Macro, the most used macro in Bee Swarm, hasn't been updated since March. Almost a year ago. Which means Polar Bear, Riley Bee and Bucko Bee are basically not macroable anymore. If you leave them turned on, your macro just breaks and stops working. So for most players, these quests are now incompletable. What makes this update interesting isn't the petals themselves. It's the fact that such a small quest change ended up affecting some of the most important progression systems in the entire game. Polar Bear, Riley Bee, Bucko Bee, endgame tools, macros, new players, all impacted by a few quests that just ask you to catch petals. And most players won't notice this immediately. They'll just feel that progression is slower, without knowing why. Which is why this change matters a lot more than it looks. Not because it's impossible, but because Bee Swarm is a game where macro progression is everything. And this update quietly took that away.